What's up, collective? I hope you guys are doing fan fucking tastic. I really do. Um, Look, my microphone situation is not ideal, so I don't want to hear it. Okay, I echo. Just okay. I'm gonna paint a picture for you. I'm gonna give you guys an idea of the scene. Okay, because you can't see my studio, I guess, slash office. So I'm in an enclosed room in I guess still summertime in Vegas, guys. I don't think Vegas got the memo that it was October. So if somebody could give a shout out to Endless Summer over here, I'm not going to be the one that gives a shout out. I'm over the summertime, over it. Anyways, thank you guys for the response to the song. I have not been working on it actually because I have other things that are just on the top of my priority list that I have to get to. And this episode is one of them. Now, mind you, if you've been listening to the show or watching the show for quite some time, 4 years to be exact is how long this show's been out. Holy shit. Um, you will have heard me talk about this topic. Men, if you will. But literally, I wanted to ask a bunch of women a bunch of questions about men. And so this is going to be from my perspective. So it's the questions women ask about men most frequently, okay, from my perspective. Now, some of you out there who are new will probably be like, well, you're not a man, so why do we care about your perspective? Well, I mean, you don't have to care about my perspective. To each his own. I'm allowed to have a perspective and an opinion. And obviously, I'm not an expert on men, but I was raised by my father. I have a son. I have a lot of male friends, and most of my careers have been in male dominated industries. Okay, like the UFC and martial arts. So I've been around men for my whole life, a lot more than I would say women. So no, not an expert. I will never be an expert at anything, but I do have some insight, if you will, on the male psyche. So I wanted to give my perspective on these questions. So we're going to get right into this. The first question, okay? This was the most asked question. What do men look for in relationships? Well, of course, that answer is going to vary, guys, but most men, like women, want trust, emotional support, and companionship. I mean, companionship. Companionship. Companionship, I think, should be a word now, though. While physical attraction can be important, right, initially, emotional stability, shared values, and kindness often become more important. And I know a lot of women are like, oh, what? No way, right? But men are drawn to partners who appreciate their efforts. They allow them to grow and they give them genuine support. I mean, guys, at the end of the day, and you're going to find throughout these questions that I'm giving my perspective on, you're going to see my perspective is genuinely and generally that men and women aren't much different. Because why? Because we're human. Yeah. Shocker. The jig is up. We're humans. So, an example of this, there is a story of this woman who realized her partner valued emotional connection over physical attraction when she went through a tough period and he stood by her side because of their strong bond. So, I think men get misunderstood a lot, like women do, obviously. I think humans just in general get misunderstood because for some reason we still have not understood the fact that because we're all human, we think we should all be the same. We should all act the same, take the same action, say the same words, do the same thing. And that is not the case. Thank God that we are our individual selves, most of us. Some of us just follow along the herd and, don't really want to be seen, and that's fine. But for the most part, we have our own way of doing things, and we can't expect another human to be just like us. So, next question. Why do men struggle with expressing emotions? Well, Culturally, men have been taught to suppress their emotions, right? Many men feel pressure to appear strong or fear being judged by showing their vulnerability. But however, when men feel safe, they can open up emotionally. They can often take time and patience. Here's a tip, women, and this is for me too, so I have to remind myself, create a non-judgmental environment if you want your man to open up to you, okay? Because when he feels comfortable sharing, he will share those emotions, okay? And so something I want to share with you, this is like a personal experience for me. I've dated some fighters, obviously, working in the industry. I'm gonna dabble in that. And, a lot of fighters get this rap of they're not emotional, they've got this tough exterior. A lot of them, guys, and I'm going to crack their secret wide open. A lot of fighters, male fighters, and women fighters, obviously, but male fighters are sensitive. Yes, they are. And I was with one who was sensitive. Okay. They may have been more emotional and more sensitive than me. So just to put that out there. Next question. Why do men sometimes pull away or become distant? Now, before I get to my points that I wrote down, I do want to share with you guys this applies to men and women, just like all of these questions do, but this is more for me. This applies to me. And I think what happens is we associate, or people associate, women associate men pulling away, quote unquote, or becoming distant, quote unquote. And what really they're doing, and I can vouch for this because I do this too, is they have to take time. So we talk about social meters. My social meter gets overflowing, and I have to, become that introverted person and kind of just recharge my social battery. So I think that's what men do a lot of times. And here's my thing. If I'm around someone who's very emotional, or maybe they're negative, they're going through it. Yes, I want to be there for them, but I also need to be there for myself so that I continue being there for them, in which case I'm going to have to detach. So I think that men, when they're, in this place of being around people, maybe at work or their significant other, because that's what we're talking about here, is why women feel like they pull away, is because they don't want to overdo the emotion. They're not comfortable in that space, okay? And I'm not either. So it's not just men, guys, okay? It's not just men. But my points were, it's not always about the relationship itself. Sometimes men withdraw due to stress or because they're overwhelmed. Exactly. So again, guys, men, they're humans. They also deal with stress. So, sometimes people who deal with stress differently than others. And most of the time, men deal with stress on their own, okay? Men tend to process emotions differently, right? Often preferring solitude to figure things out. That's what I just said, right? The best approach is to give them space, but reassure them that you're there when they're ready to talk, okay? And a woman explained to me how she misinterpreted her boyfriend's withdrawing during a stressful time as a lack of interest, only to find out later on that he was overwhelmed with his job and needed space to recharge, right? Again, we got to stop acting like men are these aliens, women. They're not. All right, next question. How do men handle stress or tough situations? Many men tend to be problem solvers. They prefer taking action rather than discussing their feelings about the issue. For some, this can come off as cold or distant, right? But it's their way of coping. So here's a tip that I wrote down. Ask them how they want to deal with the situation, talk or act, and support them accordingly. And this is something that I struggled with a lot in my early years of dating. And I would want them to talk to me right away. And sometimes, even with women, even with my friends, my girlfriends, some people just don't want to talk right away, right? So give people their space, let them be themselves. Next question. What are men's biggest insecurities? This was another big question, or a lot of women touched on this in different ways. But again, just like women, men have insecurities too, guys, often surrounding their career, finances, and physical appearance, right? Many feel pressure to be the providers or to meet societal expectations of masculinity, which I think it has its place, right? Like we want the men to be men, especially nowadays. Um, but again, I'm going to keep saying this, guys. You're going to hear the word human 12,000 times in this episode. Again, we have to remember that they're human. They're not some masculine robot, all right? The key to men is reassurance, helping them see that they are valued beyond those surface pressures. Yes, my thing is, women struggle with this too, just in a different way, or maybe the same way. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Validation, right? I think validation became the forefront when social media became real big. Um, and it's just a human thing. We want to be validated. We want to be noticed. We want to be recognized. And just like women, constantly needing that reassurance, does he love me? Guess what? Men need it too. Men need it too. So something that I wanted to share with you guys, that I helped my partner navigate a financial insecurity by reminding him that our relationship was built on more than just material success, right? And so I dated a musician who was from another country, all right? And we were actually engaged. And when he moved to the States, he wasn't able to work. He didn't have a work visa. So legally, he was not able to work. And I let him know it's fine. I mean, obviously it bothered him. He couldn't contribute financially to the relationship or the household or the family. And I understand that's frustrating, that's disheartening for him. But there was nothing we could do, right? There was really nothing he could do, because I told him, babe, it's fine. Focus on your music. And one day you will be able to contribute financially. But right now it doesn't matter to me. It's not why I'm with you, right? So I just had to give him that reassurance, right? So, next question. Why do men seem to prioritize work over relationships? For many men, work is deeply tied to their sense of identity and self worth. It's not always about choosing work over their partner. Sometimes they see work as a way to provide, right? And support the relationship. So, also, too, and I might be wrong, so men, this is where I need you guys to come in. I feel like men, I don't know if they prioritize work, but I think it may look that way because work just might be easier sometimes for them to navigate than a woman's emotions, right? Um, and I can say that from the woman's perspective, in that I've seen that from my male partners. I've seen them, what I would consider prioritize, which I think is a strong word, over me. And I think about where I was at in that place when it happened, and I probably was an emotional basket case, or maybe a lesser version of that. But I would say it's just easier, right? Because you know your work, you know what to expect a lot of times, right? And a lot of times with an emotional woman, you don't know what to expect. And it could just create a bunch of stress and fighting, and nobody wants that. So a tip here: communicate openly if you feel neglected and try to understand the underlying motivations, okay? And try, for the love of God, not to make it be about yourself every time. All right, next question. What's the deal with men and commitment? Commitment fears often stem from previous relationship baggage, fear of failure, or societal pressures. Some men take longer to commit because they want to be sure they're ready emotionally and financially. Patience is key here, women, but knowing your own boundaries is important too. Let's not forget that we have boundaries and values, okay? Don't wait forever for someone who isn't on the same page. And at this point, guys, this is kind of a common sense answer, okay? Um, Not all men have issues with commitment, and some women have issues with commitment. Hello, my name is Nina. I have commitment issues. Not anymore, but I used to really have these commitment issues. I used to find myself always um, attracting unavailable men. And I realized doing so was because I was emotionally unavailable and had suffered from commitment issues. Now, mind you, this is my own thing, and maybe one day I'll talk about it. But like, this is something that I feel like it's not based on everyone. Not everyone's the same. Not everyone feels the same about commitment. But here's the thing, women: if you've been with somebody for 10 years and one of your needs is a ring and a marriage, and your partner's isn't, this has got to be something that you found out within that decade of being with them, right? I mean, even 5 years, even a year, I'm pretty sure you probably know where your partner's at with that. So, the whole waiting on other people, like, that's just never a good idea. So, some men rush into commitment and they get married very quickly, and some it takes time, and women too. All right, next question. How do men show love and affection? I was kind of surprised that women asked this question, honestly. But, men may express love differently through actions rather than words. Fixing something right, helping out, or planning an activity are often signs of affection. Now, there is all these books about love languages and all that. But again, like I said in the last question, you should know your person, okay? If you've been with them for an extended amount of time, you should know how your person works, right? So a woman shared with me her husband's way of showing love was taking care of household chores, even though he rarely said, I love you in words. And I found that interesting. Now, the I love you words, for me, I take very serious. Okay. I would never tell a man I love them or I'm in love with you if I didn't mean it. Because words do mean a lot to me, because my words always have action behind them, and I do show it as much, if not more, than I say it. But the thing is, when I say things like that, that is real emotion coming out of me verbally, vocally. And so I'm never going to say that if I don't mean it. I know there are a lot of people out there who do say it and don't mean it. And, do better, grow up. But she understood, and it was okay with her husband being that way. And I think that speaks volumes. All right, next question. What makes a man lose interest in a relationship? Well, loss of interest can be caused by many things, of course: emotional disconnect, lack of communication, or changes in personal goals. Men often retreat when they feel that their needs are not being met, so do women, or if they're unsure about the future of the relationship. So, yeah, I mean, if you've been dating a guy for 6 months and he starts to seem like he's losing interest, it's probably because he is. Unlike women, men don't really play games like that. I know there are fuckboys out there, I get it, but men really don't. Usually, and this is why I have a lot of guy friends, what you see with men is what you get. Okay. And I'm very much like that too. And so a lot of times when it may appear that they're losing interest, it's because they are. And so a tip here would be regular honest communication. It can help keep the relationship healthy and address any concerns before they escalate. Now, again, if you're not having that communication, then, there's your big sign. And if if your man doesn't want to have an honest talk with you about this, then there you go, you know? So. All right, and the last and final question: how do men view physical appearance and attraction? This was the second most asked question. So, physical attraction is often what initially draws men in, but it's not what keeps them in a long term relationship. Men are usually more focused on how they feel with someone emotionally and mentally beyond just physical appearance. Now, this last part that I wrote is very important. Confidence and self assuredness are incredibly attractive to most men. It's about the overall connection, not just the looks. So, yes, there are a lot of shallow people out there, not just men, people. And a lot of times they find that there's nothing behind that initial attraction, right? And so, it doesn't last. The thing is, I have dated several men who, I wasn't initially attracted to physically. And also, other women might not find them physically attractive, but they were some of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. And their personality made them gorgeous, physically gorgeous. And so, it's the whole look past the cover of the book, guys, right? Because the contents, the real substance is inside, right? It's inside the book, it's inside their mind, it's their personality, it's how they see things, it's their humor. It's a lot of things. So, I think men just feel the same way. I think that they may see a beautiful woman, but if she's, not interesting to speak to, or she's, one track minded, and, a lot of men just will only want to be around that for so long because they can't really and fully connect to that, right? On the same level. So you don't have to be a Victoria's Secret model to get a man, guys. I mean, look, I hate bringing this up, but Victoria's Secret models get cheated on too. So we're just going to say that. Not to say the Victoria's Secret models aren't intelligent, because a lot of them are. Side note on that, I'm actually going to do a podcast episode about Victoria's Secret, because I'll give you guys a little secret. I have been obsessed with the Victoria's Secret fashion show since 1997, which I think was like the first one. And I've been watching them ever since. They've actually gotten crap lately, but I digress. Yeah, I want to talk about that and the darkness and negativity and evilness around that company and that industry, and it saddens me. So yeah, I'm gonna do an episode about that. Anyways, so yeah, how did you guys feel about this episode? Women, men, I want to hear from you both. Men, if you disagree with any of my perspective or opinions, please let me know and know why. And I would love to have a man and a woman on. And I want to hear the debate between you two. I would really love to do that. And if my listeners, you guys are into that, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Please follow us on Instagram at the Collective Culture Podcast. I am also going to start doing live podcast episode spaces on X, formerly known as Twitter. So please join X if you haven't, guys. It's the place to be right now. And if you're already on there, please follow me. My handle is Nina on X, at Nina on X. Also back in the TikTok streets, mostly doing my art, but I have started these little series where I'm going to give clips of my podcast episodes. I'm going to give motivational tidbits and little short clips, videos. So follow me on there. It's abstract_Nina. And then also, speaking of abstract, Nina, please check out my abstract artwork on IG at abstract_Nina. And please follow my art journey. I do have currently, right now, I have a very large art piece for sale right now. And if you are a Vegas local, you will not pay shipping. So hit me up if you're interested on that. You could see the post on my Instagram, on my X account, and on my